Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by A.G. Hines Company. When it comes to building a sturdy structure, one that's more energy efficient than wood or steel, think about that, more energy efficient than wood or steel, get to A.G. Hines Company because they sell Nudura insulated concrete forms. These things, they look like Lego, all right? They just snap together. It's easy to use. It's incredibly structurally sound. I mean, we've shown you photos where an entire beachfront community is wiped out by a hurricane, except for one building. And you can see that although the outer shell is ripped off, it's Nudura insulated concrete forms that have held that building together. Very sturdy, energy efficient, and just one of the many, many cutting-edge building materials that they sell at A.G. Hines Company. Get down there and see them in downtown Knoxville this week or visit them at aghines.com. All right, yesterday Alabama visited College Station and handed Texas A&M their second loss of the year. In terms of scouting Tennessee's next opponent, I don't know what these guys came away with, but let's take a look at a graphic first. This is what I came away with. This is what Texas A&M's done so far on the year. You see two peach-colored games there. Those are both their losses. Look over at that passing yards allowed stat. Now, they had the number one defense in the conference coming in yesterday because they had allowed 131 yards passing to New Mexico, only 132 to Arkansas, only 56 to Auburn, 95 to Louisiana Monroe. But the two teams that got them through the air. Ryan, do you have to throw to beat the Aggies? And if so, my concern is that is not Tennessee's strength this year. On the flip side, it's not Alabama's great. They don't have a knockout passing game either, and yet they threw pretty well on the Aggies. Is it about throwing the ball when the Aggies come to town next week, or am I missing the boat?
No, I think that's a fair point. I think that's at least one of the easiest ways to win that game. Now, not to say there couldn't be others. Tennessee's shown that its run game is its strength, so maybe there's a happy medium there. But I think at least that game showed Tennessee's going to have a harder time running the ball in this game than they have against even Florida to some degree, and certainly South Carolina. So I think this is a game that Tennessee's going to have to do some different things. It might be a lower scoring game. That's what that told me. We'll see if it plays out that way. But if Texas A&M gets their way, plays well at the line of scrimmage, this might be a game where points are more to premium and say 30 points is enough to win. That's not what we're used to seeing from Tennessee, but I think that might be what this game is.
Yeah, and I think Alabama was actually in negative yardage at the half for run game. So
I think you have to get the numbers game right. I think that's one thing Tennessee has to do because both Florida and South Carolina, they kept six in the box most of the time. If that happens, then you run the football. One thing Texas A&M seems to do defensively is that they want to play a lot of zones so your quarterback doesn't run, and then they play contain on the outside really well. Joe Milton ain't running if he doesn't have to. So I do think if Tennessee can get that seventh guy in the box by running the football, they have a good shot to be able to beat them over the top. And I do think Tennessee does a little better against the zone versus man-to-man.
Bob?
I'm going to go with that this is going to be the Tennessee versus offense versus the Texas A&M defense. I think it's on Tennessee's offense. I really do. I think Texas A&M's defense is good. Obviously, number one in the SEC going into yesterday's game, they're good. But the bits and pieces that I've watched them through the season, this isn't Georgia's defense of 2 years ago. They're not great. I think if you can rattle their cage a little bit, you find out where the cracks are in it. See, that's the reason my questions always come back, is Tennessee going to be good enough? I don't think they're going to run very well against Texas A&M. I really don't. Is Joe Milton good enough to beat you? And I think that's been the question we've had all year. We haven't seen yet that he is. So is he going to be in this game? Because if he's not, I think you lose.
He's not good enough to beat you when it's all on him. I mean,
and that's what I mean. And I think this is going to come down to a lot more on him than what you've seen the past few weeks because that running game isn't going to be there.
Well, and if everybody around here is sitting here, all the callers, all those media heads, we're all sitting here saying, well, obviously we know Tennessee's identity now is run the ball, lean into the run it even more. Texas A&M knows that as well. Yeah. They're going to do everything they can to stack that up, as they did pretty well against Bama yesterday. Vince, your thoughts on A&M and how Tennessee can go at them?
Well, it does start with the run for me for Tennessee. It's the threat of the run. Alabama didn't have a lot of yards, but that's always a threat for them. They also have the threat of the run with the quarterback, which Tennessee has not shown a whole lot of unless Milton's feeling better and they're willing to do it. So those Jalen Milroe's first career 300-yard game.
Yep.
And their plan was that they could attack and get to their secondary. So it's a matter of Tennessee hitting on their deep shots and not missing on that. They did a better job. Last game, the one with Squirrel White was really their only one, the only two beyond 20 interceptions, but they have to be able to not miss and be efficient in their deep shots. And look, that Texas A&M defense is very aggressive. Their safeties, even if they're not showing a big box, they'll come down hard. Tennessee has to be able to hit over the top.
Did that help Tennessee or hurt Tennessee that Texas A&M lost to Alabama yesterday?
I think it helped because I think we saw the beginning of the Petrino Jimbo thing happen. You saw Jimbo in the second half get really, 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 really conservative. That's not Bobby Petrino, and that has always been my thesis on why I thought Tennessee would win this game, was because I don't think the two of them can coexist, and I thought after the Alabama game we'd start to see those cracks. I think we saw those cracks in the second half.
I think Alabama cranked it up defensively too, and that put them in some tough spots. They had penalties and long yardage and stuff like that. So I think that was a little bit a part of it too.
I'll Cavaliers it. I think it just helps that they played Alabama.
Right.
They're
That
beating
they
up.
went out
They're
there
gonna be
and
bruised.
played a tough physical football team.
Yeah. Fisher's getting ripped today for not going for it on fourth, and it was a long yard at about the 45-yard line. I didn't have a problem with that because Alabama's offense was not consistent. My defense had played pretty well to that point. So if you told me make Alabama go 80 or give them ball at the 45, I'll make them go 80. Hey, you got beat. They win 80, so kudos to them. But they did get more conservative, but that's the one he's getting creamed for everywhere, and I didn't have a huge problem with that one.
Speaking of coaching, I think coaching adjustment is going to be a part of this game too. Jimbo said after the game that Alabama went to more of their quick passing game because A&M got all the defensive stats, sacks and tackles for loss in the first half. And then Alabama made adjustments offensively and then had success against A&M. Can Tennessee have answers during the game if they have a tough start?
One more key on the other side of the ball. Texas A&M didn't run the ball well against Alabama. Obviously, they've run it much better the previous two games, 200-plus yards in those games.
Yeah.
Tennessee's got to stop the run in this game. A&M's a pretty good running team.
All right, we're going to have more on Texas A&M and the Tennessee matchup a little later on. You can continue to tell us what you think is going to happen in that game. 60% of you now, it has flipped. 60% of you now say tight win, be a close win. 17% of you say big win. Only 23% now say loss. So those negative people got in there early, and now they've been washed away by a wave of positivity. So keep clicking on that, keep giving us your votes. When we come back, Brew McCoy, Nico Iamaleava, best and worst surprises so far, team MVP so far, rapid fire next, then we're going to get into the offense, deep dive into the offense, then the defense, recruiting. Too much to tell you. Come on back and see it.